Good evening and welcome to our review of the news in 2014. Tonight's the first instalment, so we'll be looking at January to March. It was a busy 3 months and it was my colleague Jonathan Sacramento's job to sift through it all. Over the next 20 minutes, he'll report on his highlights.
Thank you, Casement!
Gibraltar rang in the new year in style at Casement Square with a spectacular fireworks display. Thousands gathered for a fun-packed night organised by Gib Media and transmitted live by GBC.
Happy New Year, Gibraltar! Happy 2014!
The first cultural event of the year, the Three Kings Cavalcade, brought with it an unexpected bout of controversy. A decision to ban the time-honoured tradition of sweets being thrown from floats for health and safety reasons led to public outrage. Letter-writing campaigns, petitions, and a flurry of social media activity piled on the pressure. In the end, there was a U-turn of sorts, and the organisers allowed sweets to be handed to the crowd by volunteers accompanying the floats on foot.
We have had to face rhetoric.
The Chief Minister announced in his New Year message that shops in Laguna and Glacis estates would no longer be able to sell tobacco. Other pledges included awarding the tender for the new power station, completing Commonwealth Park, and licensing fishing and diving. Mr. Picardo said 2013 was in great measure an excellent year for Gibraltar, with the economy continuing to perform well. But it was also a year of huge challenges.
We have also seen on land illegal and disproportionate queues at the frontier, which are clearly politically motivated and which even the European Commission has described as unjustified.
Of this so-called new-torn government.
And the leader of the opposition used his New Year message to once again level accusations of misleading Parliament and the public when answering questions on Credit Finance Company and financial assistance given to the Sunburn Hotel. In a party political broadcast, Daniel Feetham said the government was using Credit Finance to fund its hugely expensive manifesto commitments and provide loans to third parties, without having to account to Parliament or the public.
Imagine what would have happened in the United Kingdom if ministers had secretly decided to form a government company and pour such huge sums of money into it without telling their taxpayer or Parliament about it. There would have been a national outcry.
You are to cease your current actions and leave British Gibraltar territorial waters immediately. Acknowledge. Over.
In an exclusive report, GBC revealed that an up-to-date chart approved by the International Maritime Organization indicated that a significant part of La Linea's Alcaidesa Marina had been built on land reclaimed in British Gibraltar territorial waters. The official chart, approved by the IMO, a United Nations agency, also showed the location of the recently laid artificial reef. And new data released by the convent confirmed August was the worst month in a year, which saw a total of 496 illegal incursions.
And my absolute number one priority is safety, and that's for everyone out here. Every day, either a scimitar or a sister HMS Sabre will come out and spend part of her patrol up here. And also our Royal Navy Ribs do 3 or 4 patrols every day, and they always come up here as well to show the flag and show a presence.
Parliament got off to a rocky start in 2014 when a clash between the Speaker and the Leader of the Opposition led to angry exchanges. Daniel Feetham accused Mr. Canepa of treating the opposition unfairly. A motion expressing full confidence in Adolfo Canepa was brought by the Chief Minister. Although both sides of the House supported the motion, Fabian Picardo accused Mr. Feetham of repeatedly questioning the Speaker's fairness, which was not edifying or good for the workings of Parliament. For his part, the Leader of the Opposition described Mr. Picardo's decision to bring the motion as shameful and opportunistic, arguing that it achieved the opposite of what it intended to do. He said it gave the impression that the Speaker's integrity had been questioned when it hadn't been.
Suits me very much, and quite frankly, I'd rather not be called Punch. But Mr. Speaker, may I ask?
A campaign calling for fixed cameras and the introduction of penalty points was launched by a bereaved mother. Richenda Collado Dawes lost her son Gareth in a tragic bike accident and called on the government to change the system.
There's a lot of speeding going on in Gibraltar and reckless driving, and there's not enough deterrence to stop these people from doing it, and normally there's at least one fatality a year.
Around 50 Gibraltarians travelled to Brussels to protest against Spain's continued harassment of the rock. A spokesman for the European Commission told the group of Gibraltarian citizens presenting a petition that the Commission cares deeply about freedom of movement and wants a solution to the frontier with Spain. However, Peter Bosch from Commissioner Malmström's office said they had to look at the issue without emotion.
So this is where we stand at this point in time. Be sure that we are committed to free movement of persons, not only sort of language in the treaty, but also in reality.
Meanwhile, some 60 people prayed in silence for half an hour in a candle-lit vigil at the airport's car park. The event was organised by Christian churches on the Rock to coincide with Christian Unity Week. Those attending included the Bishop Ralph Heskett, Monsignor Charles Azopardi, and the Reverend Fidel Patron, who was involved in organising the event. The idea was to pray for a resolution to the problems at the border.
Those safe pair of hands, they asked us.
The GSD membership voted in 8 new members to the party's executive at an AGM at the John Mackintosh Hall. It was the first time executive members had been elected by the membership, and the party said this was part of its modernisation process and restructure. Leader Daniel Feetham said those present at the meeting were the lifeblood of the party. And according to the party leader, the GSD was a government in waiting. Edwin Reyes then announced the chosen 8 new executive members: Ainsley Andrews, William Anidjar Serfati, John Calderon, Salian Felice, Trevor Hammond, Kim Karnani, Darren Olivero and Arturo Sheriff. It was also revealed during the AGM that members would also be able to participate in leadership elections in the future. The party said it was seeking greater participation and therefore a greater quality of democracy. Also in January, the 12th Tradewise International Chess Festival got underway, with over 300 players in Gibraltar from some 60 countries. The convent awarded more than £16,000 to charities from funds collected during the Christmas fair. And the governor presented Afghanistan service medals to 9 soldiers from the Royal Gibraltar Regiment.
Most will have spent normally 6 months or maybe even slightly longer in situations in Afghanistan that are as far as removed from normal life in Gibraltar as can be imagined.
At the turn of the month, the multi-million-pound Sunbourne floating hotel arrived at its final destination at Ocean Village. Nearly 8 months after arriving in Gibraltar, the self-styled 5-star yacht hotel was towed the short distance from Coaling Island, giving onlookers something extra to enjoy on a sunny Sunday afternoon. One of the most controversial talking points of 2014 emerged when the Gibraltar Football Association unveiled its plans for a 10,000-seater UEFA Category 4 stadium at Europa Point. A YouTube video highlighted the main selling point, that this would be a sports facility for all the community to enjoy and be proud of.
It's important to have a new stadium in Gibraltar, primarily because the one we currently have, which is the Victoria Stadium, doesn't meet the UEFA criteria for a Category 4 stadium. A Category 4 stadium is the minimum category at which a country, a stadium, can host a full international match.
The Chief Minister said this project heralded a new era, not just for football.
It's the beginning of a new chapter for Gibraltar football and for Gibraltar as a whole.
Just 2 weeks later, and the national football squad learned they would be taking on Germany in their first ever attempt to qualify for the European Championships. Watching the draw together with the Chief Minister at the Rock Hotel, the squad also learned they'd be facing Scotland, Ireland, Georgia and Poland in the qualifying rounds.
Thank you, Thomas, for this nice...
A cross-border group of unions and associations travelled to Brussels to present EU officials and MEPs with documental evidence of the problems experienced at the Gibraltar frontier. The group's lobbying trip was self-funded. Their goal, to communicate to EU decision-makers that the excessive queues were having an adverse effect on cross-border trade and employment.
The dossier itself contains a lot of testimonials and a lot of evidence, but from a very human factor, which is what we're hoping to put across. So instead of statistics-based, it's really trying to get across the human impact that the situation that we're living at the frontier is having on people's lives.
Lombard Odier's Lawrence Podesta was announced as the Gibraltar International Bank's CEO. He was to be joined by Barclays' Derek Senair as Chief Operating Officer. Later in the month, it was revealed that the bank would be located at 310 Main Street, in the old Key and Anchor complex next to Inces Hall. The government said this was an important heritage site and vowed to respect this in the works and refurbishment of the property. Good news for prospective homeowners, as the Monscalpe Mews and Beachview Terraces government housing schemes were launched by the Chief Minister. He said just under 900 flats would become available, and priority would be given to prospective purchasers who are on the housing waiting list. A showroom was set up in Main Street opposite the cathedral.
This will be hugely exciting for those people who are on the government's housing waiting list, who have been waiting for some time to see what the affordable housing proposition that this government was going to put to them was going to be. These are two great projects, one of them in the old coach park next to Waterport Terraces, continuing that area of development, and another one in the area of the old aerial farm just by Eastern Beach, affording fantastic living just on the beach, and really the beginning of what will be the development of that area.
The local branch of the Norwich and Peterborough Building Society shocked the banking community by announcing it was to close down at the end of the year. This was confirmed by the company's head office. An announcement was made verbally to the staff, and customers were contacted over the following weeks to begin close-down operations. The decision followed a detailed review of the branch, and the 12 employees were offered a redundancy package and placement support to enhance their prospects of finding alternative employment. A bill to ban bullying in the workplace was passed by government majority in Parliament. The government described this as an important piece of legislation, but the opposition said not enough consultation had been carried out with employers ahead of implementation. The bill was nevertheless welcomed by the Dignity at Work group, as well as Unite the Union. Just days later, the first high-profile case came to light when 35 employees at the Employment Service filed a complaint for bullying against the head of training companies, Joana Hernandez. This sparked off an internal inquiry which became the subject of heated debate at political level for months afterwards.
It's not that his ministry has identified.
A local school teacher was acquitted of sexual offences after a 2-week trial at the Supreme Court. A jury of 9 found Mark Montovio not guilty of 6 counts of indecent assault. The charges were all in relation to one complainant, and the jury had heard evidence from him as well as the defendant during the course of the trial. The verdict of not guilty on all counts was returned just after 4.5 hours of deliberation. It was met with tears of joy from friends and family of the defendant who'd gathered at the courtroom.
Sports Award Sports Personality of the Year is Colin Bensadon.
Also in February, Colin Bensadon scooped the senior prize at the GBC Sports Awards for his achievements in swimming. He'd brought home a silver and bronze medal from the Island Games in Bermuda.
Yeah, you need a lot of hard work, but not just from yourself. You know, you need a lot of support from your family, from friends. Great coach, obviously. Without that, we wouldn't do anything really.
At the star-studded event at Bruno's, the junior prize went to 14-year-old chess player Stephen Watley. The triathlon squad took the team award, and a special award was presented to the Special Olympics athletes.
It changes my life forever, me in the Special Olympics. I love it.
It didn't take long for objectors to the new stadium at Europa Point to begin mobilizing. A group of citizens opposed to the siting of the stadium organized themselves into a group and took to the streets with a petition. The 9-point document said that if the stadium was built at Europa Point, one of the only open flat spaces still left in Gibraltar would be ruined, as would the panoramic views of the Strait, Morocco and Spain. It said the stadium would change the iconic profile of the rock and lead to traffic problems on match days. Both the Heritage Trust and the Environmental Safety Group added their voices to the objectors, believing Europa Point to be the wrong location for the stadium. The GONHS, however, said it didn't feel there would be any negative environmental impact caused by the structure. In its defense, the GFA issued a statement saying it would take all the views expressed by the public into account, and said the design was only an early one and would change. However, in its statement, there was no suggestion that the location for the stadium would be reconsidered. The leader of the opposition waded into the debate by saying he didn't believe the location was ideal from an environmental or heritage point of view, but added he would reserve judgment until his questions were answered in Parliament.
Whether the United Kingdom is doing enough or is doing...
The Chief Minister told the Foreign Affairs Committee that, judging by the facts, the UK has not done enough to deter Spain from bullying and harassing Gibraltar. He said the long border queues are still there today, and Spanish vessels continue to take executive actions in Gibraltar waters. He expressed the view that the UK should therefore distance itself from the comments made by Spanish politicians, saying Anglo-Spanish relations are excellent. The committee heard from Mr. Picardo at the Garrison Library, the first time such an evidence-gathering session had taken place on the Rock. He also told them that the UK choosing to leave the EU would be a disaster for Gibraltar.
If we look at what the United Kingdom has said, well, what the United Kingdom has said has been very robust. It's been more robust, perhaps, than it has been for 30 years. But if we look at the results of what has been said and what has been done, then the results are not so good.
Gay men and women, as well as heterosexual couples who don't want to get married, can now enjoy all the same social benefits as married couples, after a civil partnerships bill was passed in Parliament. This includes tax, housing, social security and pensions rights. The government describes this as a landmark bill and a step towards a fair and inclusive society.
It is a monumental recognition of people's human rights, and it is a true expression of equality, because now people who are in same-sex relationships are able to have that recognized in the eyes of the law.
And equality rights group GGR, who's been campaigning for this legislation for over a decade, said it was planning to celebrate the new legislation and look toward the future.
The gay community of Gibraltar is now determined to continue along this path of dignity and equal citizenship.
This House appoints the Honourable Adolfo Canepa, GMH OBE MP,
to be Mayor of Gibraltar. And
Eyebrows were raised when a motion was presented to Parliament nominating Adolfo Canepa as the next Mayor of Gibraltar and not Tony Lombard, as had been anticipated. It took a few days for an explanation to emerge. The Chief Minister said in Parliament that there had been objections to Mr. Lombard's appointments, too many to ignore. The leader of the opposition said this was a very shabby way to treat Mr. Lombard and said it would therefore be abstaining from voting on the motion. Mr. Lombard himself issued a statement saying Mr. Picardo's explanations were simply not credible.
A public object from the very beginning.
Damon Vocino was confirmed as the new deputy leader of the GSD, with his shadow portfolio extended to include financial services. Party leader Daniel Feetham said he was delighted with the appointment and was confident he'd be able to work well with Mr. Vocino in achieving success for the party.
So I think we need to, all of us as a party, to put our shoulder to the wheel and ensure that the people, the electorate in Gibraltar, have an alternative to this government in 2015.
A local police officer was sentenced to 6 months in prison after being found guilty of misconduct. Cain Benteolo was tried in relation to an incident last year when he texted someone who'd been arrested for sending threatening messages, advising him to delete his texts.
Luke is the Margaret Thatcher Fellow in the Margaret Thatcher Center for Freedom.
The Chief Minister revealed he would be working together with the Gibraltar Museum to recover an American World War II bomber from Gibraltar waters and put it on permanent display as a symbol of the special bond with the people of America. Speaking at the Heritage Foundation, a conservative political lobbying organization in Washington, Mr. Picardo said he would be working towards furthering the special historical bond between the people of Gibraltar and America.
So I put to you that you have an area of land which belongs to 30,000 people. You ask them whether they want to be British, Spanish, or anything else. The United States should be defending their right to determine their future freely and democratically.
The European Commission again reminded Spain that she needed to make crossing the Gibraltar frontier easier for EU citizens. Home Affairs Commissioner Cecilia Malmström told the European Parliament she had recent reports of long waiting times for pedestrians and, as such, had reminded Madrid of the need to improve the situation at the frontier between Gibraltar and La Línea. March brought with it a brand new accessible entrance to the Hindu temple via Engineers Lane. The Light Dragoons took over duty from the Royal Gibraltar Regiment for a short time, whilst the locals were on exercise, and the Philadelphia Evangelical Church opened its new premises in Forster House, Laguna Estate.
Jonathan Sacramento with his take on the stories hitting the headlines January through to March. Our review of the year continues tomorrow when Christine Vasquez looks back at April, May and June. Join us at the same time for that tomorrow. That's all from the news team for now. Thanks a lot for watching and good night.